Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining in. I'll be talking to you guys today about the Barbarian class with some useful information from character creation, subclass, and level up choices to overall gameplay. So let's kind of dive into this. What is a Barbarian? Barbarian can basically be your heavy hitter, tank of the team, capable of dealing damage and taking it, as well as being ones with you want to do something like their more strength-based challenges. So something like that, I would say like moving a rock, picking up someone and chucking them over a cliff, like I did with a bugbear the other day. Or I really wanted to get my mage to safety because I figured in the next turn or two they were going to start wailing on us, and they cast grease at the opening, cast it on fire. We did as we were trying to take out some other things, so that's still on fire. If he walks through that, he's dead. So I picked up Gale as my barbarian, and I yeeted him over the fire pit, per se, and he was able to at least get behind cover to heal and then back me up with some long-range spells, which was very helpful. But if I wasn't a barbarian or had low strength, it wouldn't have worked out so well. The downside of having that higher strength is that, well, not downside, uh, the benefit, oh, let's just say the benefit. It's a benefit. Having the higher strength, you'll be able to carry more items than everyone else. So you almost become kind of like the pack mule of the team, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just, it kind of comes with being a barbarian. People are going to do that to you. But barbarians are way more than just the pack mule. I would say heavy weapons would be a better choice for just because they do more damage, and mostly no armor. I say no armor because there's a lot of class abilities we'll cover today that you'll see are designed around you not wearing any armor at all, potentially maybe using a shield. I've played barbarians in the past in D&D where I had a warhammer and my shield just so I could have some extra armor for a while. And once I hit like level 5 or 6, I ditched the shield and went to two-handing that, or I found a really nice battle axe, which was great. Um, I will say though, like you can wear heavy armor. Um, you can get the ability, I should say, to wear heavy armor, but it's going to impede your ability to rage, which is basically the core of being a barbarian, and some of your other abilities like unarmored defense. So the benefit of getting like one or two extra AC than what you currently have, to me, doesn't outweigh the benefits you get from these other abilities. The nice thing here from a race perspective in this game is you don't have to be in the tropes of how it's always been of I want to be a barbarian, so I'm gonna play basically a dragonborn, a dwarf, or a Goliath or something because they give me the most cool abilities, or bonuses to my strength and constitution. Rah. Uh, Thankfully, that's not overly the case. Like you could be anybody. I'm playing a freaking gnome barbarian, and it is hilarious to walk around with this like little person, just walking up and just Spartan kicking people off the freaking cliff. It's great. One of the main pigs I picked a gnome, other than just I thought it would be fun, is they have this ability where I get advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. That is clutch for because there's a lot of spells out there like for being charmed or um, charmed, frightened, and things like that are intelligence or wisdom based. So by having advantage on those along with everything else makes a gnome honestly a strong pick. That's just my opinion. The downside for this is that we don't get any dark vision. So that in play, I would say like an elf or a half elf might be a nice choice, or someone else that has dark vision. But what's nice about the elf and half elf is that you get that advantage against being charmed, but you can't be put to sleep. So if somebody tries to sleep you with an item, and there's nasty mages out there, man, that were guys that will really just put you to sleep, and it sucks. You can wake yourself up out of it. You can get woken up, and like it's just a really pain for low levels because when it's cast at lower levels, how it works, it's really easy to hit a lot of people. So it's obnoxious. The other benefit is that you gain some dark vision. Um, as a dwarf, not only do you gain dark vision, but instead of that advantage against being charmed, you have advantage against being poisoned, and you're resistant to poison damage. So if somebody hits you with a poison arrow or a poison blade, you'll have resistance or take half that damage, which is really nice. It's kind of situational, and also dwarves, I feel, are like the classic barbarian classes, along with um, maybe like a human or a half-orc. Um, I would say a Dragonborn is another good choice. The reason for that, for me, everyone else only has like 7 meters worth of 7 to 7.5 meters of movement speed per turn. You get 9, so that means you can move a little bit faster to get to your target. The other thing you gain too is you get a breath weapon. In this case, because I am a black dragonborn, I get an acid breath weapon that, as a bonus action, I'm going to do 2 to 12 damage with it, and just how it kind of works. So you get a little bit more flexibility changes, if you will, in how you're attacking something. And honestly, like, I feel a half orc, if I were to rank these, like if I were to rank these 5, and I'm gonna throw a half elf in as an elf because on paper they're kind of the same. I would say, from my just 2 cents of it, a gnome would probably be first, just because of this. This gnome cunning ability is amazing. I didn't talk much about halflings, but halflings would be another nice choice, because they're... I'm gonna lump gnome and halfling kind of together a little bit here, because they have the ability to have advantage saving throws against being frightened, and also you can re-roll once. So if you're... I mean, it's not the greatest thing. I'm going to throw them maybe like a 6 option. So gnome would be first for me. Half orc is second, or for, like, it's a toss-up. Like, it's really hard for me to rank these, and I almost don't want to be ranking them, just because it, I don't know, they're just so unique for certain things. Like, so a half orc, not only do you get dark vision up 12 meters like the elf, but you get this ability that if you're dropped to 0 HP, you come back with 1 HP, which is amazing when you're sitting here getting, pummeled, and you drop to 0 HP, you can come back. Now, I will say that there are one of the subclasses I'll cover here. When you get to a certain level, you get an equivalent of this, but it's not until like level 9 or 10. So it's a pretty far reach. So you'd have this ability out the gate. And as a barbarian, you're going to be up front, you're going to be taking damage, you're going to be the person getting walloped on left and right. The other nice thing about them is this savage attack ability, which when you land a critical hit, which is a nat 20, they do 3 of their damage dice instead of 2. So how a normal crit works is you roll the 20, and now it's going to do double your dice damage of your weapon plus your modifier. So let's say you do 1 d12 for your axe. Normally it would roll 2d12 plus your bonuses. Just by being a half orc at level 1, if you crit, it'll be 3d12 instead of 2. So you're gonna deal a lot of damage out the gate. And you can gain this ability as a barbarian, more towards like level 11 or 12. So you do get something similar to this, but again, it's farther down the line. And I'm not saying that's like a deal breaker to not pick a half orc, but if you're looking for high damage and survivability, this is probably a good choice. If you're looking for something where you want to have a little bit of flexibility and be saved against spells and things, gnome could be helpful. If you're really worried about being put to sleep, an elf would be a good choice, or even being charmed. You still get dark vision, and what's nice is being a half elf, or a high elf, is that when you pick your sub race, you get different bonuses. So if I'm a wood elf, I can move. You could be a wood elf barbarian, and you could move faster. So this counteracts the reason for being a dragonborn that I mentioned. As a high elf, you get a cantrip. So if you're not raging, you could cast a cantrip of some kind. You could also change this cantrip to be something other than offensive. It could be something that's defensive. like Minor Illusion, which oh, maybe it's not. That's not the one I want. Well, there's a nice one here. True Strike to give yourself advantage on an attack roll. Not really overly useful, but like there's some other things in here you could use that could be helpful as being that race. Half Elf, you get a similar thing. So like these two kind of, are kind of similar to me. Dwarf, you get to be a badass dwarf. You get advantage on your poison. And also as a golden dwarf, as some of these subclasses of dwarfs, you get either more HP. Shield dwarf is really not really useful for us. If you were to be a Durger dwarf, you gain that charming ability and or advantage against being charmed and paralyzed, and also you have double the dark vision that you normally would. So if you're in caves a lot, this is going to be really helpful. The downside is that people are probably not going to look to you too kindly. So I would say gnome first, half orc second, dwarf third, dragonborn or elves fourth, dragonborn fifth, nice sixth. I mean, drows, humans, and gith, they're in there, but I just don't feel that some of their bonuses are worth it for this specific class. That's just me. From a background ability or side point, I'd say soldier, just because you gain proficiency in athletics and intimidation. It's key things to me as a barbarian. From an ability standpoint or attributes, strength is going to be your primary. Constitution would be second, and I would say dexterity is probably your third, based on just some of the class options we'll go over here. If it was me doing this, if you wanted to go crazy, not crazy, but balls to the wall, to where you just max out everything you can, where you don't care about having a -1 to intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, you could go straight in and have a higher con and dexterity, to where when as a level 1 barbarian, you'll get this ability called unarmored defense, which allows you to add your dex and con modifier to 10. So at level 1, you'll have an AC of 15 in this instance. And then you gain your +3 to strength, so you'll be able to do pretty good damage. If it was me, I would say, because I like to even out my abilities. I was thinking, sorry. If you did something of this nature, you still get that +2 and a +1 here. So you have 13 AC to start. Your other skills are fairly covered. You could, if you really wanted to, I would say maybe dump charisma, because from a charisma-based thing, there aren't really a lot of things that are saving throws. As a barbarian, then, in this case, I wouldn't be the one talking to the shopkeep. I'd pick somebody else so I can get better choices. But I would almost dump my charisma so that I could get that higher dexterity. And what I would probably do at level 4, when you get a ability score increase or a feat increase, I would say, so when you do a ability score increase, you can put 2 points into one skill or 1 point into 2 skills. And if you remember from the character creation video, every even number of this, it goes up by 1. So if it's at 10, your bonus is a +0. So from 10 to 11, it's a 0. 12 to 13, it's a +1. 14 to 15 is a +2. 16 to 17 is a +3. 18 to 19 is a +4. And then when you hit 20, it's a +5. So if I wanted to even these out, which I probably would at level 4, I'd make this 16 and this 18, giving me some bonuses to that. That would just be me. And then from a skills perspective, Animal handling, like they default it to perception and animal handling in my instance here. I would say survival over animal handling. Perception's always good because you're just able to see things. So like at least you're able to be semi-perceptive as a barbarian. I'm going to load now another barbarian I have that is at level 3 so that I can kind of cover some of the the subclasses options. And I'm going to start going over the equipment and like just the level unlocks and sub-level things that you can get from this as I kind of get into the meat of what we're here for.
Is that everything? I think that's everything.
Okay.
Can't give up now.
If I level up, what happens during a level up is once this loads, you think there it goes. My health increases by my hit die, which in my case as a barbarian is a 12-sided dice or a d12. I gain my level 3 class feature, and they're giving me a spell because it's defaulting me to a different subclass. Before I dive into this too much, at level 1, you get what's called armored defense. So basically, if you're not wearing armor, like I think I mentioned before here, is that your armor class would be 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your con modifier. You can wield a shield, and it will stack with this ability. It won't stack with any other class, like a monk, for example, that has a similar class feature. They have unarmored defense as a monk. Excuse me. But you can also have someone cast mage armor on you, I found out the other day. And that works in tandem with this. So what I mean by that is, so mage armor gives you a 13 plus your dex mod. If you combine that with unarmored defense, you then can add your constitution modifier. So in my instance here, without mage armor, let's say for example you had a 14 in dexterity and a 18 in con in your constitution. That would be a +4 to con and a +2 to dex. My IC would be 16 off of the base unarmored because 10 plus 2 plus 4 makes it 16, and if I had a base shield, it would make it 18. Now, if someone cast mage armor, that would increase it to a base of 19 without a shield and 21 with a shield. So if I were to dump a lot of points more into that instead of what I did earlier, you could eventually have some pretty high AC even at just level 4, which would be nuts. Insane, if you will. As a barbarian at level 1, you also get... Why would I rage? You get this rage ability. Here, let me back out of this for a minute so I can show you the rage.
No time to rest.
Rage. So at level 1, you get your bonus ability here called Rage. And what Rage does is while you're raging, you are resistant or take half damage to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, as well as having advantage on strength checks and saving throws. You gain a +2 to your attack, and that increases to a +3 once you hit level 9 as a barbarian. It lasts for 10 turns, but it can end early if you don't attack an enemy or or you don't take damage. If you do attack something and you miss, don't worry, it doesn't count against you. It just means that you missed, but you're still able to rage. And also you can't concentrate on spells or even cast spells, and you can't wear heavy armor. So earlier I had mentioned that heavy armor was probably a no-no for a barbarian, and that's part of the reason why, because of how all the spell or the abilities work out, doesn't work out so well. I will say that your number of rages will increase by 1 at levels 3, 6, and 12. So once you hit level 12 as a barbarian, you could have potentially 5 uses of rage a day before having to take a long rest. Um, it's pretty nice. At level 2,
Shouldn't
you
have
also
wished to live in
gain
more interesting times.
Danger Sense, which Danger Sense gives you advantage on saving throws against traps, spells, and surfaces, for say. So let's say you're on a slippery surface, you have to make a dexterity saving throw. You'll have advantage against it. Or if somebody throws off lightning bolt at you and it's a dexterity saving throw for this, you would have advantage on the save to try and not be fried by lightning. And by advantage, what I mean by this is that it rolls 2 dice and takes the higher of the 2. What you also gain is Reckless Attack at level 2. And Reckless Attack, for lack of a better term, you gain advantage on your attack rolls that turn, but also all the enemies have advantage against you. I will say, if you're a Barbarian, you're always going to want to rage. Let's go back in the level up here. Because at level 3, you gain that additional charge to your rage, like I had mentioned. In addition to that, you can pick a subclass. I'll start with Berserker just because it's the easiest of the 3. So with a Berserker, you gain basically any one of these is going to slightly tweak your rage ability at some way or another. With Berserker, you will have the ability to do what's called an improvised weapon attack on a bonus action. Basically, there's a skill I covered in a different video where you can pick up something and use it as a weapon. Basically, beat a mofo with another mofo. It's a lot of fun. But you also gain this Frenzied Strike, which if you have a bonus action ability open, you can make a bonus action attack or use that bonus action, to make another melee attack with your equipped weapon. So let's say you're raging, you attack somebody, you can use your bonus action to do it again, to do another attack if you so wish. Enraged Throw is something we also gain as part of this subclass, and for lack of a better term, what it means is when you throw something at somebody, it'll not only do the damage of hitting them, but also knock them prone for a turn. And when something's prone, you get advantage on attacks against them and a whole bunch of slew of things. And knocking somebody prone can be very helpful. Wildheart is probably one of the more in-depth subclasses of this of a barbarian of this class. So at the start, you gain Speak with Animals, which is a spell that allows you basically to speak with any animal you come across. So let's say you came across a bear, or the other day I came across a squirrel that showed me where a chest was buried, which was awesome. When you first get this, you also can pick a heart, a bestial heart, sorry. And each one of these does a slew of different things. Bear heart, for example, when you're raging, you have resistance to all damage except psychic damage, and can cast or use an action called Unrelenting Ferocity, which allows you to heal for 1d4 plus your Constitution modifier, which is really nice. Eagle allows you to invoke disadvantage on opportunity attacks against you. So let's say you're in someone's threatened square and you move out of it, they'll have disadvantage on that attack against you. You also can use the bonus action to dash. But the biggest nice thing with this is you get what's called Diving Strike, which is an action that if you have the high ground, you're Obi-Wan in this, you're high ground, you got the high ground on them, you jump down and you attack them. Not only do you do the damage you would do when you hit them, but they also go prone, and you don't take fall damage. So let's say you're diving striking on something, and you're jumping from 100 feet up in the air, let's say 50 feet up in the air. Rather than taking 5d6 worth of fall damage, you take nothing. So you went from taking potentially 6 to 30 damage by jumping to taking nothing. So if your plan is to just, jump through the sky, this might be the the subclass and option for you. Elk allows you to move 4 to 5 meters farther in a movement speed for your movement speed, and you also get this ability to basically charge over and stampede people in front of you, dealing 1d4 plus 2 damage to them in the process. Tiger Heart is very similar to Elk Heart, but instead of getting more movement speed, you get farther distance for your jumping. So if you want to close that distance, you could still just jump at them. And then you also get this thing called Tiger's Bloodlust, which lets you attack up to 3 enemies and cause bleeding damage on them. A Wolf Heart is more of, how do I want to put it? Think of it more as like a packed tactics kind of thing from other games. So as a wolf here, you gain advantage, or your allies, gain advantage on their attacks if they're within 2 meters of you. And you get this thing called Inciting Howl, which allows you to help your allies move an additional 3 meters if they're close by. Outside of Bestial Heart, at level 6, when you choose this subclass, you get what's called an Animal Aspect. And Animal Aspects can do a lot of different things. And I'll list a lot of this from like the level 1 through level 12 items here that I'm talking about in the description of the video once this is posted, just for quicker reference. But at level 6, you gain the Animal Aspect ability to choose one of these 6 or 7 options. So as a bear option, your carrying capacity is doubled, and you can throw camp supplies to blind a target. As a chimp, you have resistance to falling damage, so you take half falling damage, and you the chimp is the one that gets the blinding. Bear, you get double your carrying capacity and advantage on strength checks. Sorry, I misread my notes here. Crocodile, you have your movement speed on water surfaces is increased by 3 meters, and if you have on a slippery surface, you gain advantage on those saving throws against being knocked prone. So, if you think about it, Crocodile is, other than being able to walk farther on water, the slippery surfaces, you already gain advantage on those saving throws by the ability of, where'd it go? By Danger Sense. Danger Sense, where it says surfaces here, you'd have advantage on that saving throw anyway. So Crocodile is kind of a waste, in my opinion. Eagle would give you the ability to have dark vision up to 12 meters. So if you picked a class where you didn't have dark vision, that might be something good to use. And then you also get advantage on perception checks. With an elk, your movement speed is increased by 1.5 meters for yourself and any nearby ally. Honey Badger, you have a 50% chance for a free rage if you're poisoned, and frightened or charmed at the start of your turn. So when if at the start of your turn you're frightened or charmed or poisoned, you have a 50-50 chance to auto rage, basically, or get a free rage, however I want to word this. Stallion, dashing grants you temporary hit points equal to twice your level. So if you dash and you're level 5, you get 10 temporary HP just because you dashed. As a tiger, it doubles your strength modifier on attack rolls against bleeding or poisoned targets, and you gain proficiency in survival. So honestly, if you pick the Tiger Heart and you're bleeding enemies, or you have the ability to bleed an enemy, that would be something to take, just because of that double strength modifier bonus. Wolf, you gain proficiency in stealth, and you and nearby allies can add their dex modifier to stealth checks. As a bonus to the stealth check, sorry. So you have your regular stealth checks, which go off of your dexterity. Basically, you get double your dex modifier to your stealth, which that could be fun and useful. Wolverine, attacks on bleeding or poisoned targets can maim them. Basically, they don't move, or they have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws for 1 turn. At level 8, you gain the ability to choose a terrain that is no longer difficult for you, meaning that it won't take double movement speed to go across. At level 10, as part of, again, this is all part of the wild class subclass, you gain another animal aspect from that list I spoke of earlier. The last subclass is wild magic, and wild magic adds some interesting aspects to this. Basically, in a nutshell, when you rage with the wild magic subclass, a random magical effect will happen. So it could be a firebolt happens, it starts raining, lightning, you cast lightning real quick somehow. Like it definitely adds a lot of randomness to it. Also at level 3 you get something called Magic Awareness, which anyone within range of you can add their proficiency bonus to their saving throws against spells. That could be helpful for certain scenarios. At level 6, you gain the ability to do what's called Bolster Magic Boon. And as an action, you or an ally can gain 1d4 of your or add 1d4, to your attack rolls and ability checks. You also get this thing called Bolster Magic level 1 and level 2, and for lack of a better description, more or less, it allows you or an ally to recover a level 1 spell slot for the level 1 magic bolster, or if you have the level 2, then it's a level 2 spell slot. At level 9 as this subclass, you have the ability to do that same thing, but for level 3 spell slots. And then at level 10, whenever you rage, if you take damage or fail a saving throw, this random magical effect that happens when you rage happens again and overrides the magical effect that's currently occurring. So the big benefits of being a wild magic subclass is just that randomness of a magical effect. And also you can support other players. If you can support your mage of like, hey, here's another level 3 spell, have fun. It could be really helpful for them. And also having that magical effect change every time you take damage or fail, to just fail a saving throw, could be beneficial. If you're looking for straight up damage, Berserker is most likely the way to go. If you want some extra twists and like additions to your class, Wild Heart and picking the bestial heart that just chimes with you might be helpful. At level 4, we gain a feat, and I'll talk more about feats in another video. I'll link it to the fighter video, because fighters at level 3, fighters, when I'm in that video, I'll be talking about feats with them. So I'll link to kind of the description of feats there. But feats are extra add-ons, more or less, that happen to your character based on whatever feat you pick. At level 5, we gain what's called extra attack, which allows you to attack twice when you use the attack action. Note you only can gain this feature once if you multi-class. So if you multi-class with somebody else who gets extra attack at level 5 as well, you don't get 3 attacks, you still only get the 2. You also get what's called fast movement, which basically means your movement speed increases by 5 meters if you're not wearing heavy armor. At level 6, we gain a rage charge. At level 7, we gain what's called Feral Instinct, which you basically gain 3 to your initiative rolls, and you cannot be surprised by any way. At level 8, we get another feat, or you can do a ability score increase. Same thing at level 4, I forgot to mention that. At level 9, you get, when you score a nat 20 critical hit, you get that extra damage dice I spoke of earlier when I was talking about the half orcs who get it at level when they start out. We don't get anything for level 10, which is but at level 11 you gain Relentless Rage, which basically once per short rest, if you're dropped to 0 points when you're raged, you can gain 1 HP instead of being downed. Very similar to the half orc ability that I spoke of that you get at a short rest. As your class ability. That being said, if you were a half orc and you came into this, level 9's brutal critical is nice because now you're able to do 4d4 instead of 3d4 when you critical, which would be in a lot of damage. And then also you gain another ability of that dropping to 0 and not being instead of being dropping to 0 and getting 1 HP instead of being down. So you could do that twice per short rest. The more and more I'm looking at this, the more and more I really am thinking like maybe half orc is really the best race to choose if pairing with a barbarian. And then at level 12, you gain another rage charge, and then you can increase your ability scores or choose a feat. If you're going to multi-class in this game, actually, before I get into multi-classing, let me go over. I forgot to go over equipment. So from an equipment perspective, I'm wearing some armor here just because it's slightly it's the same AC as I get earlier, but without it. But the only reason I'm really wearing it is because of this bonus I have where I take 1 less bludgeoning damage. So if I'm going to have the same AC regardless, and since this is medium or light armor, it doesn't affect any of my abilities, which is nice. I have a great sword here that I found earlier in the game that does just a lot of damage, which is nice. And then like you can use some ranged abilities, but more or less you're going to be right up close with the biggest weapon you can find and either no or some type of armor that gives you a bonus. I don't have a shield, but if I did, I could use a shield and some type of single weapon, and it will work out really well. From a multi-classing perspective, I mean, in the aspect here of where we don't have to worry about having certain attributes to be other classes, you can just be the class. That opens up a world of everything. Now, when you multi-class, you don't gain all of the benefits of the other classes. I will say that. That is, it's not like you can be a barbarian and a wizard, and now you have all the wizard spells and all the benefits you would get at that level. When you're multi-classing, you have your character level and then your class level, which are different. So at a character level, you're level 4, let's say, but from a class perspective, I'm a level 2 barbarian and a level 2 warlock, let's say. So you can only go up to level 12 in this game. So that's one thing to keep in mind with it too, is that really multi-classing, I would leave more for one, doing a lot of research so you don't screw yourself over, and then two, taking multi-classing kind of in the middle. So maybe hit level 5 as your main class, take 2, 3, take 3, maybe 4 levels in another class, and then finish off rounding out your main class. The reason I say that is because I'm pretty sure the bug may have been fixed by now. I don't know for sure, so I don't want to stick to that. But there was a bug that I knew of that if you took level 12 as your non-primary class, it was breaking things. I don't know if it's still doing that. Well, one would find out. But I was reading on some forums and whatnot, more or less, that you want to level up your main class afterwards, or at the end of everything. That being said, that's what I got here for a barbarian. Hopefully this information was useful. If you feel I missed anything, or if there's something you'd like to add, I mean, feel free to drop a comment on the video here with whatever you would like to add, and then even from your own experience of playing this class, like, feel free to let me know. I'm always interested to learn more. I'm coming at this more from the D&D perspective, and just, I know, like I said, with multi-classing here, if you pick certain classes, you can almost hinder yourself moving forward, which is never fun. But as always, I enjoy doing these videos for you guys, and hopefully you find these things useful. And if you do, give me a like and subscribe. And as always, happy gaming, and may you roll all of the nat 20s.